Well, hello heroes and villains. My name is Ash and welcome back to my channel. If you are watching this video, you are here for chapter 3 of the Library of Dragons Readathon. I'm so excited. It's officially been over a year since I started this readathon and I am on chapter 3. I think I'm like 2 to 3 side quests in. It's been a fun time. A little bit of a lot for me, but it's been a fun time. Now, if you're here, I would assume that you know what this readathon is. If you don't, that's okay. This is a Dungeons & Dragons inspired readathon where we roll dice, we get a dragon, we get to explore with them. Essentially, it's very heavily RPG or tabletop role-playing game. If you like D&D, if you like dragons, this is a place to be. If you want to do this readathon, you have to start at chapter 1 and then do the chapters in order. Side quests can be done in any order. So for example, if you just started chapter 1 and you want to like catch up to the chapters, you can just do chapter 1, 2, 3 and then do the side quests, or you could do chapter 1, all the side quests. It's whatever you want to do. Just keep in mind that trust points and currency has to be tracked on your own, so keep track of that when you are doing this readathon. For this part of the readathon, we are going to be rolling dice. Only one though, because we don't have advantage or disadvantage right now. So right now we're only going to be rolling one die, and if you know what this is, it's going to be the most popular dice that you use for D&D, and those are D20s. This is my D20 bag, just Astarion. He holds all my dice, and these are all my D20s. I have a lot of them. These are 20-sided die. They are little triangles on them. I'll show you like a close-up, but you can usually tell what these are because this has the most amount of faces on it, and there are 20. One is one that you don't want, and 20 is one that you do want. There are different kinds. I have a lot of like the acrylic plastic ones are very common, and then I have 2 different metal die. Those are the 20-sided dice. You need at least one of these. If you do not have one, that's fine. You can ask Siri, choose a number from 1 to 20. You can do a random number generator. There are virtual dice on like dice apps. So whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have physical dice with you. Obviously, it'd be fun to do, but like you only need to have either digital or have a number chosen randomly or whatever you want to do. Alongside that, I want to explain a few things very briefly. If you don't know anything about Dungeons & Dragons, I want to kind of just like go over this. If you do know D&D, you can probably skip this part. Once you reach a certain amount of trust points, you can add +2 to one of your modifiers. I forgot to do that, so this is out of date, but make sure you have a character sheet because we're gonna have to go based off of this. So when I mention modifiers in my video, or if I'm talking in a readathon TBR video, the modifiers are just your stats. So -2 strength is my modifier in strength, a +2 is my modifier in wisdom, and a 0 is my charisma dexterity modifier. So if I ever say a modifier, it just means your stats essentially. If I say to add your modifier to your roll or subtract the modifier if you have a negative like I do, either subtract or add your modifier onto your roll, and that will determine based off your DC. So when you do your ability checks, it will be on my document. So let's say if it says to do a DC 11 intelligence roll or intelligence check, essentially that means that you roll a d20 and then you add your intelligence modifier. For me, it's a 1. If I do a DC 11 intelligence check and I roll an 8 and I have a +1, I still fail because I get a 9. You have to at least meet the criteria in order to pass. So if it's a DC 10 intelligence, you have to at least get a 10 or above to succeed. If you get a 9 or below, it's a failure. So if there's ever a check, make sure that you do add onto your modifiers or subtract it. So I have a -2 strength. So if I was doing a strength check of, let's say, a 12 and I rolled a 12, I would have failed because I would have subtracted that to 10. I'll try to explain this as I kind of go, but it should be self-explanatory. All you have to do is do a little bit of math. I know I hate math too, but all you have to do is add your modifier or subtract it if it's a negative, and then see what the end roll is. And if it's above or meeting the criteria for the check, it passes. So like I said, if it's a DC 9, all you have to do is make sure you get a 9 or above. Make sure you add your modifiers. If you roll the dice and you have 0 on your modifier, just don't add anything and just do straight rolls. I know it's a little hard to understand, but if you have any questions, just come to me. I don't mind answering them on my Discord. I will obviously be able to answer questions. Hopefully on my Q&A, I will have some answers, so that way it's a little bit easier to explain. So if you don't know what I'm saying, go to my Q&A and I should be able to explain it there as well. For this part of the readathon, if you roll a nat 1, you have to do 2 prompts. Essentially, you have to do the success and the failure prompt. You still have to take the failure path if there is one, but if you roll a nat 1, you have to do both prompts in that section that you rolled for. Whatever 2 prompts that you were about to do, depending on what you were going to get, you have to do both. You can technically double up on any of these prompts, so you can double up on your failure and success if that actually works, but it's a critical failure, so I'm gonna make myself read 2 different books if I land on one. If you roll a nat 20 in any time in this readathon, you can get yourself 2 gold and you can do a mood read. Most likely if you're rolling the dice, you are going to be doing this for a prompt. If you roll a nat 20, you just instantly mood read. You do not need to do the success prompt. You don't have to do the failure prompt. Instantly you just succeed and you do a mood read. So you could choose any book you want. You don't even have to choose any prompts. You're good for that. Like the best case scenario, you get gold and you get a mood read, which is great. So make sure that you keep track of that. If you roll a natural 20, that is a critical success, so you instantly succeed. And if you roll a nat 1, you instantly fail. It's it's a very bad failure, and that means you have to do both prompts. So it's not good to get nat 1s, it's very good to get nat 20s. Okay, so a few more things before we begin. One is that I wanted to do something for people that have backlisted books on their bookshelves. For some people that don't really read library books, that want to read their own books and they don't really get silver for it. So for my readathon, if you read library books for the prompts, you get 3 silver each. And some people were kind of like hoping they could do something that wasn't library based, which is completely fine, I get it. So I decided to do something that I think would be beneficial for certain people. You get the same amount of currency, so you get 3 silver for this. But every time you read a book off of your own bookshelves that are over 6 months old, so you've gotten over 6 months ago, some even before then, so like a year, 2 years. I have some books on my shelves that are like 10 years old, even older than 10 years old, which is atrocious. So if you read anything that's over 6 months old, so something you got in the beginning of 2024 or onward, then you get 3 silver. So it's the same as the library book. So if you read a library book for this readathon, for a prompt for my readathon, so it has to be for a prompt for my own readathon. If you read a library book, you get 3 silver. Now, if you read a book off of your own shelves that are over 6 months old, you also get 3 silver. So obviously it's good to do that if you want to read your backlist. To meet this criteria though, you obviously have to have it on your own bookshelves for over 6 months, and you also have to read it for a book prompt. If you double up on a book and you read a book that's, let's say, like 3 years on your shelf and you have 3 prompts on it, you can only count it once. As long as you do it in my readathon and it's a prompt from my readathon, you can count 3 silver. If you do 3 different prompts and you have 3 books that are older than 6 months, you get 9 silver for them. So I have it all on the written document on my Google Drive. It's pretty much the same as a library book, it's just that books are over 6 months old. So that way people that have backlogged books or backlisted books or books that they've gotten for a long time and haven't gotten to them and don't really use libraries or don't have access to libraries, now you have a way to get silver. So hopefully that's okay. I was gonna add more, but I'm like, you know what, people have enough money. Some people are rich and we don't need more money to those people. So I'm going to also mention the schedule for 2025. So for the last year, I've been doing 2 side quests and 2 chapters every year. It's actually been a lot of work for me because it's like every 3 months I'm doing a chapter or a side quest. And it's just like really tiring, I'll be honest. Like doing this all alone, it doesn't seem like a lot of work, but it's a lot of work. It takes me like hours and hours for like a week straight just to get this all done. So I wanted to do a new schedule. So for next year, the next side quest is going to be in June. And then for the next chapter, it's going to be in November. I used to have November be Drovember anyway, so I'm going to keep it like that because I like having it in November. And then June is going to be the next side quest. There's going to be things happening in between, like critters and events. The shop is going to be opening in the next side quest. So there's things to look forward to still, but I just wanted to give myself a little bit of less of a workload when it comes to this readathon because it's been a lot. June is the next side quest, November is the next chapter. And hopefully this way it will be going for a few more years. If I'm lucky, if I'm still doing all this in a few years, I should be doing this still for a while. So yeah, next year, there's a few things happening with that. So June and November is the new schedule for my readathon. I have my notes down, I think. That's it for the talking about random things section. I think now I'm going to be going on to my actual part of the readathon where chapter 3 comes in. So for chapter 3, we're going to be going down different paths. We can make decisions, we can roll dice, and that will determine different prompts. I think there is a minimum of 5 prompts, maybe not, maybe like 4 to 5 prompts minimum, and maximum I think there's like 8 or 9 prompts. And if you're lucky, you'll get less unless you want more. And then if you're not lucky, you'll get more. At the end of this, your character could also go to jail and be stuck there until the next either side quest or chapter or event. So good luck. Don't go to jail if you don't want to go, but just be good. You should not be able to go to jail if you're good. I did a little bit of a diagram to kind of give you an idea. It looks a bit confusing, but like I said, I have a Google document. Google Drive will have all the different paths. And it's also going to be a Google document that just has everything on one page. It might be a bit confusing, but at least it's all on one page in case you just want to scroll down and just look at everything by themselves. I'm also going to have something like G does, where she does like her own side quest where you get to choose your own adventure. It's going to be similar to that, where you get to open up different folders and they'll bring you to different outcomes. I think I'm going to do that as well. So there's 3 different ways to track this. Hopefully it's not too confusing still. So I'm hoping for the best. If you have any questions, just come to me. I don't mind answering. So I'm not going to narrate everything that happens, deciding on your choices. There are going to be things in the document that, make this a bit more atmospheric and, have the whole, like, you walk through the path and that kind of D&D thing. You can do that on the document. I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to be here for an hour just role-playing and DMing to you. I'm just going to go over the prompts and probably the checks and go over them really quickly because I don't want to be here for too long and try to explain them if they seem to be convoluted or confusing. So let me go and do that and talk about the paths you can take. So this chapter is all about learning about our dragons. We're going to be figuring out what they like, what they dislike, either depending on the element or just dragons in general. We're going to be learning about them as a whole and either going to someone to ask for help with this or looking into the information yourself. Your character is more of a intelligence, wisdom, someone that wants to learn on their own, is autodidact, someone that wants to, learn about things through textbooks and text or books themselves, then you go down the left path. If you have a character that wants to speak to someone that has knowledge, you know, like a wise older person that knows information about dragons, then go down the right path. So again, I'm not going to tell you the details of what's happening in these chapters because it's going to be too long, so I'm just going to go over quickly what the checks are and what the failure and success prompts are. So if you're going down the left path, you have to do a DC 11 intelligence check. Again, roll a d20 and add a modifier. If you have a modifier at all, if you have negatives, make sure you subtract it. If you have a positive, you add it. So do a DC 11 intelligence check, roll a d20, add or subtract your modifier. If there's a 0, don't do anything, just get your roll, straight roll. If you do your DC 11 intelligence check and you go 11 or higher, you succeed. If you succeed, you read a book from your favorite genre, any book you want, as long as it's from your favorite genre. For me, romance and fantasy, paranormal romance, fantasy romance, that kind of thing. That's something you can choose for that one. If you fail and you get under 11, so you get 10 or below, you get the failure prompt. This, you have to read a genre outside your comfort zone, one that you do not usually gravitate towards, something that you're not really that comfortable reading, or it's something that you kind of put off because you don't really read very often. That is going to be for the failure prompt. If you fail that roll, you also have to go down the failure path, which is one extra prompt. When you go down the failure path of the left path, you have to do a DC 10 dexterity check. If you succeed, you get a 10 or above, you succeed the check. If you get 9 or below, you fail it. If you succeed and get a 10 or above, you have to read a book based off of your dragon's element. If you don't remember what your element kind of thing is, it's in the chapter 1 documents. It tells you what your dragon's element genres are, or at least they're kind of like the vibe. For example, I have a blood dragon. If there's blood on the cover, vampires in the book, or horror or crime, that will count for the blood dragons. So just go on to the first document if you don't remember. If you get a 9 or below on your dexterity check, you get the failure prompt. If you fail this prompt, you have to read a genre from your rival's genre, if that makes sense. So for example, if you go on to the chapter 1, you have a rival. So for example, blood dragons, their rivals are celestial dragons, which makes me so happy because I love celestial dragons. So the fact that I get rivals for it is amazing. If I failed, I would get sci-fi instead because celestial dragons are sci-fi genre. So whatever your rival is, if you fail, you have to read their genre. So if I fail, I would get to read sci-fi. If I succeeded, I would get to read horror, vampires, blood on the cover, anything like that. So make sure you check chapter 1 if you need to see what your rival is and what your elements are. As you complete the left path, you have to do one more prompt to finish this path. That is to study the book that you currently found. For this prompt, you have to match your book to the current outfit that you're wearing. It doesn't have to be your entire outfit, just one article of clothing. So let's say you have certain socks on, you have certain pants, one certain shirt. If you have certain earrings or necklace on, you can try to match that. As long as there's an accessory or an outfit or a certain thing that you're wearing that matches it, that works. You could also just match an outfit to a book. So you don't have to do the one that you're currently wearing. You could just choose an outfit that matches one of the books that you have if you want to do that, if it's easier for you. But I already did this to myself. I already know what the outfit was that I did this with, and I'm currently wearing it actually, so that's fun. So the one I'm currently wearing is the one I'm going to be using for my prompt. So that's great. It could be a color scheme, it could be a design, it could be whatever you want. Once you're done the left path, you kind of like meet up back into the middle. And so now I'm going to talk about the right path. If you decide to take the right path and talk to a mentor, someone that knows about dragons, then you're going to make a DC 11 charisma check. So you have to talk to someone, try to figure out who this man is or who this person is, and you're going to talk to people and figure it out. So roll your d20, add or subtract your modifier if you have one. If your modifier is 0, don't add anything. This is a 11 charisma check. So if you roll a 10, your modifier is a +1, you succeed. If you get an 11 or higher, you succeed. If you get a 10 or below, you fail. If you succeed in the right path, you get to do a book that you are excited to read, one that you really want to get to, like maybe an anticipated read, one that you're just really looking forward to getting to. But if you fail this prompt and you get a 10 or below, you have to read a book that you're putting off, one that you're not really that interested in, maybe one that you had on your shelves for a long time, maybe one that you're just not really that interested in reading or just have been putting off for a while now. That would be for the failure prompt for the right path. If you failed the charisma check, you have to also take the failure path, which gives you one extra prompt. This one you have to make a DC 10 wisdom check, so you have to do a 10 on your die, or at least with your modifiers, so you have to get at least a 10. So if you roll your d20, you add or subtract your modifiers, or neutral if it's neutral, and you have to get a 10 or above to succeed, a 9 or below to fail. If you succeed on this failure path, you get to read a book written by one author. Pretty self-explanatory. If you fail this prompt and you got under a 10, then unfortunately you read a book with 2 authors. This might be easy for some people. Like for example, the Expanse series, James S.A. Corey, is written by 2 authors. So for me, I guess I could use that if I were to fail this prompt. But if you are someone that doesn't really have many books that are written by 2 authors, this might be a bit tricky for you. Also keep in mind that manga, graphic novels that have an artist and a translator I would let that count too if you're having a really hard time with this. Once you complete the 1 or 2 prompts for the right path, depending on if you succeeded or failed, you have to take notes off of the person that's giving you this information. With this one, you have to read a book featuring a school, study, mystery, intrigue, dark academia, anything that you would see in this kind of realm where you're learning, you have notes, you're doing things like that. I feel like dark academia is like the easiest kind of choice, but anything along that lines, like if there's a college, if there's a school setting, this one, I feel like you could go into different directions, hopefully. If you're creative, you can do whatever you want. If it like matches the vibe of this path, just do it yourself. Like if it just makes sense to you, just do it. So as you finish the right path, you will come meet in the middle. So the left and the right path meet in the middle at this point, and you have to do a collective prompt. For this one, you have to be buying items for your dragon. So you have to buy items and get things for them. Now that you learn information, you know what they like and dislike. So you're gonna go and buy them things. I don't know, like treats, beds, whatever you think that your dragon would like, depending on the size of it too. If it's like a huge dragon, maybe don't get a bed for it. That might like ruin the economy and like you have no money left. So maybe not do that. So if you want to buy items for your dragon, there's 3 different things you can do. Some of them are a bit safer than others. The first one is the safest option, which is just to buy the items. So if you do this, you instantly succeed. You don't have to make any rolls. So just buy the item. You have to pay 8 silver. So you have to take 8 silver out of your character's like account or wherever you put the currency. Just remove 8 silver to succeed with this prompt and do the success prompt. If you want to, risk a little bit more, you can haggle. So you can try to convince the person that you're talking to give you a discount. For this, you have to do a DC 13 charisma check. You have to get a 13 or above to do this. And if you succeed, you get the success prompt. If you fail, you get the failure prompt. And then you can also steal, which is the most risky one you can get because you can potentially go to jail for this one. For this, you have to do a DC 13 dexterity check. So you have to get a 13 or above to succeed. So if you do succeed, you instantly get the success prompt as well. So if you haggle and you succeed, and you steal and you succeed, you get the success prompt. If you also buy it, you instantly get success. So let me just tell you what those are before we go down the other paths. So if you succeed by haggling or stealing, or you just decide not to risk it and just do the buying option, you do the prompt where you have to have a book that has R, P, or G in the title. Only one of those letters. It doesn't need to be all those letters, just one of them. So as long as it has either 1 R, 1 P, or 1 G in the title, or the author's name, you can count it. I feel like author's name is a little bit much. It'd be better to just do the title, but if you're really struggling, you could do either or. If you haggle and succeed, you only have to pay for 3 silver. If you fail, you have to pay a gold. They make it a little bit higher. They upsell it to you, so if you fail your haggling, they're gonna make you pay more. So just be careful of that. If you do fail for your haggle, you have to do the failed prompt, which is to read a book very similar to the last one, but you have to read a book instead of RPG. You have to read a book that has an X, Q, or Z, either in the title or the author's name. This one's a little bit trickier, so be careful. Obviously, don't get this one if you're not comfortable with haggling, but if you want to pay less and be a little bit risky, you can haggle. If you fail to steal, you also have to do the Q, X, and Z prompt, but you also have to do the failure path, which is to try to escape from the guards are grabbing you. You either have to do a DC 14 dexterity check or a DC 14 strength check, whatever one you prefer, whatever one's higher for your character. You have to try to escape the guards' reach. If you succeed, you get to get away. You are scotch-free. You get to have a mood read. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to do anything for this prompt. You get a mood read. You're free. You're lucky. You got out of it. If you fail and you are grabbed by the guards, you have to read a book that is going to be either an emotional book, one that is going to be really hard-hitting, just one that is going to be very impactful or emotional. So now, if you are in the failure path of stealing and you failed again, you are imprisoned. So you cannot do anything from this point forward. You do have to do the mandatory prompt at the end, but from this point forward, you cannot do anything with your dragon. You don't get to bond with your dragon. That's sad. That's just sad. Maybe you shouldn't have taken that path. Maybe you should have been a good person. Okay, it's fine. There's still 2 mandatory prompts that you have to do. So for the time being, you are in jail. You have to escape later on in the future. But for now, you still get to do the mandatory prompts. People that did not steal, you get to spend time with your dragon. You either get to do physical activities or mental activities with your dragon. So either you are going to be doing things that are good for your minds, or you get to do something that's physically good for you. You make this decision yourself. There's no different outcome. Just choose whatever one that your character would do or one that you're stronger in. So this is completely up to you. You have to do a DC 10 strength check, a DC 10 intelligence check, or a DC 10 constitution check. Whatever one is best as your character. So whoever has the highest stat, I would choose that one because there's no different outcomes for this. So just choose whatever you have the highest outcome in. If you roll 10 or above, you succeed. If you get a 9 or below, you fail. So for the success prompt, you have to use a prompt from someone else's TBR game or your own TBR game. So if you have a TBR game, you can do this yourself. Or if you watch TBR games on YouTube, just choose one from their TBR game. If you fail this prompt though, you have to take a book off of someone's TBR. You just have to take any book that they mention or say that they're going to read. It could be technically like a past month. You don't have to do it for this month, but you have to read a book off of someone's TBR. And last but not least is the final prompts. These are the 2 mandatory prompts that everyone's going to be doing collectively together, and this is just a way to kind of finish off spending time with your dragon and bonding with them. If you're in jail, you could technically still spend time with them and bond with them if they're there somehow. To bond with your dragon, you have to read a book with either an animal companion in the book. This is a bit tricky, so I also had animal on the cover. So if you don't have a book that's animal companions, or if you don't know if it has one, just read a book with an animal on the cover if you're struggling with this prompt. The last one is actually not reading a book. This one is spending time with your dragon. This one you have to read a book on a sprint. So for example, you either have to watch reading sprints and take part in them in order to complete this prompt. You do not have to read the entire book on the sprints, by the way. Just read some of it. Like even if you're there for 20 minutes, that's it. That's fine. If you don't watch reading sprints or do your own reading sprints, you can also just do this on your own time. You can put like a 10-minute timer on, you can do whatever you want. That will count too. So do not worry about having to be on actual live streams on sprints. You could even do like playback sprints. You can do your own at home. You can even look at the time on your clock and be like, okay, in 10 minutes, I'm going to stop reading. That's all you need to do. So it's going to be pretty simple, hopefully not too difficult. Like I said, you don't have to read the entire book. You just need to read like a small portion of it on a sprint or on your own time, so don't worry too much about this. And that is the end of chapter 3. It is a little bit confusing as I say it here. I mean, it sounds more confusing, I feel like, when I say it out loud, but hopefully the documents and the picture will make more sense. I will put up the picture of like the diagram I kind of made. This also looks confusing, but if you keep along the line and the track of where you are, it shouldn't be too difficult. I spent a lot of time on this. It doesn't look like it, but I did. This is kind of like the path you can take, and it kind of gives you like a visual idea of the paths that can happen. So there's that if you need it. There's also going to be the written document on Google Drive, and then there's also going to be the Choose Your Own Adventure, kind of like choosing different folders depending on your outcomes and that kind of thing to make it a little bit easier for certain people to keep track. So that's all. I think that's all for all I have to say about this. Obviously, you have to keep track of your trust points and your currency. So if you finish this chapter, keep track of that. I will also have like spreadsheets. I'm not really good at the spreadsheets, but you know what? They're there if you need them. You can make your own if you're better at it than me, which honestly, that's nothing wrong with that. Please do, because like I said, mine isn't the best, but like it's there if anyone needs it. I think that's it for the end of chapter 3 from my Library of Dragons Readathon. This is the 3rd chapter. Like I said, I've done this for a year now, and I had a lot of fun doing this, although, like I said, a bit stressful to do a lot of it, but also a lot of fun. I'm hoping that people have fun and do their roles. I'm actually kind of excited to see what people's roles are. I'm going to be doing this myself, so you should see my TBR in about a week and a half, near the end of the month. I think on the 30th, I'm going to be having my TBR out. So by then you should see my TBR video and see what my roles were. Hopefully everyone has some good luck, some good rolls, nat 20s, all that fun stuff. So good luck with your rolls. I hope you have a good time, and thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate everyone for being here. I'm not going to go on a whole rant about how I appreciate you all, because you all know I do. So thank you so much for being here, for being a part of my readathon, for watching my videos, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully November was a decent month for us all. It was kind of hard, especially in the beginning, so please take care of yourselves if you need it. December, I'm really hoping December is better for everyone, or at least for a lot of us. So fingers crossed that December will be a good month for us all. And I know December is a very busy month for a lot of people. There's a lot of readathons, like Christmas, holiday ones based. So if you need to push this back to like January, go ahead. You have until June for the next side quest, so do this at your own pace. So that hopefully the end of the year is gonna be kind to you. I hope December is a great month, and I hope, really hope that 2025 is a good year. I'm a little bit nervous. I think a lot of us are. But let's just hope that it's a good year. We're gonna keep our fingers crossed, okay? So with that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much. Have a great day. Have a great reading month in December, and I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone.